So despite being a teacher during a national crisis where all the schools are closed, I actually managed to keep myself busy the first week of quarantine. I was given the opportunity to make some extra cash, but to do that, I needed a new dress. And no, I didn't leave quarantine to get this fabric, you guys. I did this before my city went on lockdown. In an attempt to do things properly, I found some mock fabric and some patterns to use to draft my dress. Just kidding, I'm gonna use this fabric instead. So the first thing I did was cut out some pattern pieces and pin them to my dress form. That is not my size, but it's better than nothing, and kind of futz around with the pieces to figure out what I wanted it to look like. And the first thing I wanted to work on was her collar, so I sketched out a collar pattern piece onto my mock-up fabric. I wanted it to be really big and obvious and obnoxious. It did turn out being a little bit bigger and a little bit more obnoxious than I had originally hoped, but them's the breaks. So after tracing it onto there, I then took some tulle and I used that to trim out the piece so that I could then transfer the piece onto some more fabric and actually make the pattern piece. I also lengthened the piece so that it would be able to wrap around to the back zipper of the bodice. When I was satisfied with my mock-up pieces, I took them down and transferred all of the pieces onto my yellow fabric. I cut out the pattern pieces and sewed all of the bodice pieces together. While I didn't want the bodice to be too fitted, I did end up putting darts in the front and the back. And before attaching the collar, I bleached it because the collar and the cuffs of the dress are a little bit lighter than the rest of the dress. And you guys, I left that fabric in literally less than 2 minutes and it came out so bright. I don't know what happened. So I stopped for a moment to kind of get my bearings and started working on the skirt. And while we enjoy this time lapse of me working on the sleeves and the skirt, something that really hit me when I saw the movie was how out of fashion Princess Tiana's waitress dress is in comparison to what everyone else around her is wearing. And it was always really confusing to me that her waitress dress was clearly inspired by the decade previous and everyone else is very much into the 1920s. And while working on this dress, it hit me. She's obviously wearing an old dress, a hand-me-down. This is something that is functional and practical, but is not the latest fashion. And she doesn't have time to go shopping for the cool stuff in order to stay in fashion like her friends. She's just gonna wear this dress until she gets her restaurant. And I don't know, it was just a nice revelation for me to put an answer as to why her dress was so different from everybody else's. Okay, back to the dress. I cut out 2 pairs of sleeves, one of the regular fabric and one of the bleached fabric. And then I sewed both of those together so that the inside was lighter, and if I turned it outward, you would see the lighter color so that it would match the collar. I actually ended up bleaching the entire dress because the collar and the inside fabric was so much lighter than the rest of my fabric that I had to bleach the rest of the fabric to better match that color. Literally only 20 seconds is how long the fabric stayed in the bleach bath, and it ended up turning into a really nice color. So this is me sewing the skirt panels and pressing it out so that I can then attach it to the bodice. Oh wait, just kidding. This is me pressing out the hem so that I can hem the skirt. I should probably look over my footage before trying to voice over my footage. And because I never do anything in a logical order, I hemmed the skirt and started working on the apron instead of attaching the skirt and bodice together. In the movie, it's like they couldn't decide the shape of her apron, so I just decided to go with whatever I wanted. At this point, I was about 24 hours out from when I needed this costume to be done, so everything was just eyeballed. I just made it up as I went along. At some point, I installed a zipper into the back of the dress, and at some point, I attached the dress and bodice together. But I was so pleased with myself that I decided to wear the dress for the duration of the apron sewing. And while we enjoy this time lapse of me haphazardly trying to figure out how this apron is supposed to work, a friend of mine contacted me and explained that the reason my fabric took to the bleach bath so well was because it is partially natural fibers, but also partially synthetic fibers. So the natural fibers love the bleach, which is why the fabric bleached so quickly, but also a whole lot more brighter than I had anticipated. Considering how often I have used bleaches and dyes in my projects, I feel like I should have known that. But it was really nice to hear it from someone who had a sciencey brain and could explain it to me. Yay, the dress is done. Let's make some money. At the end of the day, the only reason this costume was made was because I needed to be able to film while cooking in a kitchen, and my ball gown did not fit. But on top of doing that, it was also a really cute costume and a pretty fun project to work on, and I'm really pleased with myself. There are, of course, some things I wish I did differently, but overall, I'm really pleased with myself. I'm really proud of myself, and I hope I get to wear this costume again for money. All right, thanks for watching. I hope this was enjoyable, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.